All right, this is Quiz 2 Study Guide. All right, on number 1, in the rhombus, they give you the angle measures of those they give you expressions that represent these angle measures. So, in a rhombus, all the sides are congruent. And they name these angles 1, 2, and 3. And they ask you to find the value of each variable. The diagram is not the scale. They tell you that the measure of angle 1 is equal to 6x. Well, if angle 1 is equal to 6x, in a rhombus, the diagonals are perpendicular to each other. So this 6x is equal to 90. So you divide each side by 6. And x is equal to 15. They tell you that angle 2 is equal to x plus y. So if the measure of angle 2 is equal to x plus y, then what you end up with here I told you that on Tuesday when I gave you the properties of a rhombus. It's in your notes. So this x plus y right here is going to be equal to 90 degrees. And if the x is already equal to 15, then 15 plus y is equal to 90 degrees. And you can subtract 15 from each side. And when you do that, y is going to be equal to 75. The third angle, they tell you, is the measure of angle 3 is equal to 18z. So the measure of angle 3 equals 18z. So 18z is equal to 90 as well. If you divide those by 18, then z is equal to 5. So there's the three values of the each variable.
What is z equal?
90 divided by 18. All right, in number 2, you are told that the measure of angle 1, this angle up here, is 152 degrees. So 152 degrees. What are the measures of angle 2 and angle 3? Okay, in this rhombus, these opposite sides, or I'm sorry, these opposite angles are congruent to each other. So, right there. So angle 2 is also going to be equal to 152 degrees. Okay? So these two angles are equal to each other, which means that these two angles are also equal to each other. And the four of these have to add up to 360. So if you take 360 degrees and you subtract a 152 and another 152. You're left with no. 360 minus 152 minus 152. You're left with 56 degrees. So what that means is there's 56 degrees left, but you have two angles that are equal to each other. So you have to divide that by 2. So 56 divided by 2 is 28 degrees. What that means is that this angle here is equal to 28 degrees, and this angle over here is equal to 28 degrees. All right, this whole thing is 28. And this whole angle is 28. But you're looking for angle 3. And these diagonals bisect these angles. All right, so angle 3 is going to be equal to half of 28. So angle 3 is equal to 14 degrees. Excuse me? No, it's half of 28. Another rhombus. And you are told you got angle 1 right here, angle 2 down here, and angle 3 is over here in this corner. Find the measure of the numbered angles in the rhombus. The diagram is not to scale. This angle right here is 36 degrees. Okay, angle 1 in this case. The diagonals of a rhombus are perpendicular. So angle 1 is equal to 90 degrees. Which means all of these angles in the middle are 90 degrees. Okay, so angle 1 is equal to 90. Angle 2 and angle 3. Okay, the diagonals bisect the angles. So if this side is 36 degrees, then the left side is 36 degrees. Now you've got a right triangle over here on the left. And in a right triangle, the acute angles are complementary. So this angle right here would be equal to 90 minus 36. And 90 minus 36 is equal to 54 degrees. So what that tells you is that this angle is also 54 degrees. You got another right triangle. So angle 2 is going to be equal to 36 degrees. If angle 2 equals 36, then the angle on the other side of it is 36. And you've got a third right triangle. All right, so angle 3 is going to be equal to 54 degrees. So angle 2 is 36, and angle 3 is 54.
Wait, so you got 36.
Say again?
You got 36.
The top.
This one? That was given. Number 4, you are given that DEFG is a rectangle. So DEFG is a rectangle. D to F is 5x minus 4. So that's a diagonal. D to F is 5x minus 4, and E to G is x plus 36. All right, so the diagonals in a rectangle are congruent. So 5x minus 4 is equal to x plus 36. You're asked to find the value of x and the length of each diagonal. So if you subtract x from each side, 4x minus 4 will equal 36. Add 4 to each side. Four x is going to equal 40. And then divide both sides by 4. So your value of x is equal to 10. If you take the 10 and substitute it where the x is, you can find the length of each diagonal. So 10 right here for this x plus 36 is equal to 46. And 5 times 10 is 50 minus 4 is 46. In number 5, you're told that the shape is a rectangle and that k to m is 4x plus 10, and that's a diagonal. And you're told that L to n is 46, and that's another diagonal. So the diagonals in a rectangle are equal to each other. So if you subtract 10 from each of these, then 4x is equal to 36, and you can divide by 4. X is equal to 9, and that's all they're asking you for. Number 6 is just like number 4. You're told that the shape is a rectangle and that P to R is 19x minus 17. And that's a diagonal. And that Q to S is equal to x plus 703. And that's another diagonal. And they're congruent to each other. And you're asked to find the value of x and the length of each diagonal. So solve for x by subtracting x from each side. (18x minus 17 is equal to 703. Add 17 to each side. 18x equals 720. Divide by 18. And x is equal to 40. So if you replace the x with a 40, 40 plus 703 is 743. And 19 times 40 minus 17 is going to be 703 as well. No, it's not. 743. Number 7. You're given a quadrilateral. With one of the diagonals in it. You are told that the measure of angle ACD is 2x plus 4, so 2x plus 4. And the measure of ACB is 5x minus 2. The question is, for what value of x is ABCD a rhombus? So they're asking you, what does x have to be equal to in this diagram for the shape to be a rhombus? Well, for this shape to be a rhombus, in a rhombus, the diagonals bisect angles. All right, a diagonal bisects a pair of angles. So these two would have to be equal to each other. So 2x plus 4 would have to be equal to 5x minus 2. And if you subtract 2x from each side, then 4 would be equal to 3x minus 2. Add 2 to each side. 6 would be equal to 3x, and you could divide each side by 3. So in this case, when 2 is equal to x, or when x is equal to 2, this shape, quadrilateral ABCD, would be a rhombus. In number 8, you're given a quadrilateral, and you're told that, let's see, you're given a quadrilateral. You're told that A to E is x plus 22. So this piece right here, half of a diagonal is x plus 22. And you're told that B to E, half of this diagonal, is 3x minus 18. For what value of x is the shape a rectangle? Well, in a rectangle, the diagonals are congruent to each other. So this piece of the diagonal on the left would have to be equal to this piece of the diagonal on the right. So set them equal to each other. X plus 22 would have to equal 3x minus 18. So you can subtract x from each side. (22) equals 2x minus 18, and then add 18 to each side. (40) would equal 2x. Divide both sides by 2, and 20 would be equal to x. So when x is equal to 20, this shape would be a rectangle. Number 9, trapezoid problem. All right, the horizontal sides are parallel to each other. This angle down here is 48 degrees. This is 123. And you're asked to find A and B. All right, there's a couple different things going on here, but the easiest thing to do is when two lines are parallel and they're cut by a transversal, if you extend this and this, these two angles are same side interiors, and they have to add up to 180. So 48 plus A has to equal 180. So you can subtract 48 from each side. And A is going to equal 132. You can do the same thing on the right-hand side. If you have to extend this or not extend it, when a segment or a line intersects two parallel lines, it's called a transversal. So in this case, 123 plus B is equal to 180. So subtract 123 from each side. And b is equal to 57. So there's your two variables. Number 10. J and M are the base angles of isosceles trapezoid JKLM. So isosceles trapezoid. In an isosceles trapezoid, the legs, which are the non-parallel sides, those are congruent to each other. So the horizontal sides are parallel. The other two sides are called legs, and they're congruent. And that makes this a isosceles trapezoid. So if this is J, K, L, and M. If J is 15x plus 5, and M is 14x plus 15, find the measure of angle K. Angle K is right up here. In an isosceles trapezoid, angle J is congruent to angle K, and angle M is congruent to angle L. So if you solve for x and substitute, you can find angle K. So again, these two angles have to add up to 180. So if you add them together now, add the expressions together first. 15x plus 14x is 29x. 5 plus 15 is positive 20. And that's got to equal 180 degrees. So something doesn't look right here, but subtract 20 from each side. Yeah, 29x equals 160, divide by 29. J. Let's skip it. We're going to start it over. I made it harder than it was. J and M are equal to each other. They're the base angles that are next to each other instead of vertical from each other. All right. So in number 10, J and M are base angles of an isosceles trapezoid. There's a rule you wrote down in your notes that in an isosceles trapezoid, base angles are congruent to each other. I just put them in the wrong location. So the 15x plus 5 is equal to the 14x plus 15. So if you subtract 14x from each side, x plus 5 is equal to 15, and subtract 5 from each side, x equals 10, right? All right, so x is equal to 10. Now, they're asking for the measure of angle K, though. All right? So, if this is J and M, let's see, this angle right here would be 15 times 10 is plus 5, 155. This angle plus the other base angle has to equal 180. So if you take 180 and subtract 155, what are you left with? 25 degrees. All right, so in that case, the measure of angle K is 25 degrees. The isosceles trapezoid is part of an isosceles triangle with a 32-degree vertex angle. This is the vertex angle in this description. What is the measure of an acute base angle of the trapezoid? So you're looking for one of these angles down here. And of an obtuse angle. The diagram is not to scale. So you need this angle, and you need this angle. I'm sorry, this angle. All right, so it says that this trapezoid on the bottom is part of an isosceles triangle. So if this shape around the outside is an isosceles triangle, and you take 180 degrees, and you subtract 32, you're left with 148 degrees. Which means that these two angles down here have to add up to 148, but they're equal to each other. So if you divide the 148 by 2, you're left with 74 degrees. So each of these angles are 74 degrees. That's the first part of the question. What is the measure of an acute base angle of the trapezoid? So there is an acute base angle of the trapezoid. Second part of the question is of an obtuse base angle. These would be your obtuse base angles. So you need this blue angle here on the left. So again, this angle and this angle in this trapezoid are supplementary. So if you take 180 and you subtract 74, you're left with 106 degrees. So the obtuse angle in this trapezoid would be 106 degrees. In number 12, LM is a mid-segment of ABCD. A to B is 82. D to C is 96. What is LM? So you're looking for the length of L to M. And in your notes we said that the length of a mid-segment is equal to the average of the two bases. So LM is going to be equal to 82 plus 96 divided by 2. $89. Nope, you're going to take 82 and add it to 96. So it's this side plus this side divided by 2 will give you this length.
Oh, okay.
So the difference in the 2 is 14. Half of 14 is 7 plus 89. In number 13, same picture. You're told that A to B is x plus 8. is 4x plus 3. And D to C is 320. What is the value of x? Okay, in your notes yesterday, I told you that the mid-segment, LM, is equal to the sum of the bases, AB plus DC, divided by 2. That's in your notes. So if you replace with the values, you can solve for x. So L to M, which is 4x plus 3, that's equal to AB, which is x plus 8, plus D to C, which is 320, divided by 2. So the first thing to do is to combine like terms up here in this numerator. And your 8 plus 320 can be replaced with a 328. And now you want to get this 2 out of the denominator. So multiply both sides by 2. These 2's cancel out. So 2 times 4x is 8x. And 2 times 3 is positive 6. That's going to equal x plus 328. Subtract x from each side. Seven x plus 6 equals 328. Subtract 6 from each side. 7x equals 322. And divide by 7. X equals 46. Number 14. Find the measure of angle 1 and angle 3 in the kite. So you're given a kite. All right, this angle is 40 degrees. This is angle 1, 2, and 3. In your notes, we said that in a kite, the diagonals intersect at 90 degrees, or that they're perpendicular to each other. So this angle right here is 90 degrees. If this angle is 90, this angle is 90. All right, so this triangle on the left, angle 3 would be equal to 50 degrees. These three have to sum 180. And we also said that in a kite, this pair of angles are congruent. So if angle 3 is equal to 50, then its corresponding angle on the right-hand side would be equal to 50, which makes angle 1 equal to 40 degrees. So those are your numbered angles for number 14. "15 is at a, let's see, it's another kite. R is 130. So this is R, STU. And R is 130 degrees. S is 80 degrees. Find the measure of T. Okay, in a kite, these angles are congruent to each other, the angles that are formed by the non-congruent sides. So this is 80 degrees. All right, the shape is a quadrilateral, so it's got 4 angles. So 360 minus 80 minus 80 minus the 130 will give you the measure of angle T. All right, so angle T is 70 degrees. And in number 16, the values of the variables and the lengths of the sides of this kite. So these two are congruent in a kite, and these two are congruent in a kite. So you're given these values of y minus 5, x plus 4, 2x plus 14, and x plus 9.
It's 4, not 14.
2x plus 4. All right, so if you solve for x first, your 2x plus 4 is equal to x plus 9. So if you subtract x from each side, x plus 4 equals 9, and subtract 4 from each side, then your x is equal to 5. So if x is equal to 5, you can substitute it up here. And 5 plus 4 is equal to 9. For the y, well, what does this side have to equal?
I have a question.
It's the same as this side, right?
That 5 right there,
So y minus 5
is that supposed to be a 4?
is equal to 9. And you can add 5 to each side. And y has to equal 14. So your x is equal to 5 and your y is equal to 14.